Welcome, and thank you for joining us for today's Dealer On webinar, How to Turn Your Paid Search Results Up to an 11. My name is Eliana Raggio, and I'll be your moderator today. Today's webinar is being presented by DealerOn. And for anyone who isn't familiar with DealerOn, there we go. We're an award-winning website development company and digital agency, best known for our amazing SEO, the absolute best customer service, and the highest converting website designs in the industry, including the brand new Chameleon responsive website platform. We're so committed to lead conversion, optimization, and customer service that DealerOn is still the only company in the industry that offers a money-back lead guarantee program. Does your website company guarantee you a 50% lift in leads or your money back? Maybe you should check us out at our gorgeous brand new DealerOn website at DealerOn.com. And DealerOn is going to be exhibiting and presenting at the upcoming NADA convention in Las Vegas at the end of March. If you're going to be there, hey, you got to stop by booth 6626N. We have the best booth around. You're not going to want to miss it. And I'm going to be there, and I'd love to see you. And while you're getting your NADA on, please check out the speaking sessions from these amazing DealerOn executives. And we have a great show in store for you today. We're very pleased to have the one and only Shaun Raines as our presenter today. Shaun Raines is the Vice President of Business Development at DealerOn. A true internet car guy, his automotive internet career began in 1998 with the Reynolds & Reynolds team that launched Microsoft's CarPoint.com, Cars Direct Connect, Yahoo Autos, Automark websites, and Reynolds Web Solutions. His unique blend of humor and automotive experience has made Raines a sought-after speaker at industry events, including NADA, NCM, Digital Dealer, and various 20 groups. Shaun is a highly respected member of the automotive community, and he can be reached at Shaun@DealerOn.com. Now, during the presentation, if you have any questions, please use the question feature located on the corner of your screen to submit them. At the end of the presentation, we'll answer those questions of general interest. If we're unable to get to your question live, don't you worry about it. We're going to try and respond to you later today. Also, don't forget, a link to download a copy of this webinar recording will also be emailed to you later today for your reference, and please feel free to share it with your friends and colleagues. Oh, and guess what? DealerOn is giving away an amazing prize today on the webinar. One of you lucky webinar attendees is going to win an Amazon Echo. This is so cool. Your life, seriously, it's never going to be the same once you get one of these. You have to be on the live broadcast to win it, though. So stay tuned, and you could be the one winning this sweet prize today. Also, at the conclusion of the webinar, you're going to receive a short survey, so fill it out, because we're always looking for quality feedback from our audience. Today, we're going to randomly select a couple of people from all those completed surveys to also win some Google prizes. And hey, do you tweet much? You know what? We hope you do. We'd love to see what you have to say about today's presentation, so please tag us in it. You can use #DealerOnWebby. I'm at Eliana Raggio. You can also hit up Shaun Raines at, you guessed it, Shaun Raines. We look forward to seeing what you're saying. So let's get started. Let's learn how to turn your paid search results up to an 11. Shaun Raines, it's been too long, my friend, since we've webinared together. How are you?
I am doing really well, actually. I feel like I'm burning the candle at both ends, but I've kind of gotten used to that. So I'm doing really well. Thank you for asking. I'm glad to be back on the DealerOn webinar. I thought the company would never ask me to do it again, but here I am.
Are you kidding? I've been trying to get you back on here for a while. You know that. But your schedule is very, very tight, and I'm glad you found the time to be here with us today. And I'm curious, as well as everyone else who's on here, can you actually turn your paid search results up to an 11? I thought it only went up to 10.
Yeah, but you see, these go to 11. So for those that have seen, well, we'll get to that in just a second. But
you got that right.
So yeah, you can absolutely, and that's we're gonna cover a lot of that ground today in this particular session. I think that everyone that has been either using paid search or they have some familiar, usually there's always a collection of different folks, whether you're at the dealership level or you're in an agency, but you've got some level of experience with paid search. We've gotten to be very comfortable with a type of paid search in the auto industry that is mostly machine driven, and we're going to talk a little bit about that, and I think it'll be really informative. And for those of you that like a theme that's woven throughout a presentation, well, you're probably going to be entertained by that as well. So it'll be a good time.
I've seen a sneak peek of your deck. It's very, very enjoyable. So I'm looking forward to this one. And audience, we do have a copy of the deck ready for download in the handout section if you want to get a jump on that. But before we do that, Shaun, why don't you tell everyone the kinds of things we're going to be learning about today? And where do we begin?
Well, the first thing I'm going to have you do actually is a first poll question.
Oh.
Because this is going to make the time that we spend together a little bit fun. So I want you to hit this first poll question. We're going to do 2 poll questions that are almost back to back. So let's hit this first one. That'll set the stage for me, Eliana.
Set the stage. Indeed. Okay, well, you heard Shaun. Your first poll question is on the screen now. Audience, we have a number of poll questions coming your way, but this is going to help Shaun out. Hopefully. We want to know what your hard rock and heavy metal knowledge actually is. Please select one of the following answers. Is it expert level? Like, seriously, I know the name of the drummer in Winger. Boom. Is it above average? I know most of the lyrics to Stairway to Heaven. Is it average? I know the difference between Whitesnake and White Lion. Is it below average? I don't even know who sings Crazy Train. Or are you just a heavy metal poser? My hard rock and heavy metal knowledge is, it's worthless. Kind of weak. All right, so once we get a majority of these votes in, we're going to close the poll and share the results. As you can tell, we have a music theme going on today. And we want to know what your hard rock and heavy metal knowledge actually is. It's going to help Shaun out. Otherwise, I think maybe, I don't know, maybe some of his music jokes might fall flat if you don't know exactly what he's talking about. But I already have a majority of the votes have already come in. Audience, thank you so much for rocking it today with us. Did you like, see how I did that? And by the way, just in case you guys were curious, I would say that I am above average, but I don't know, I might be expert level. I'm pretty close. I got some inside scoop over here.
All right.
By the way, Shaun, John wrote in, you'll go deaf listening to that stuff, Shaun. All right,
I've been trying. Hasn't worked yet.
Let's close this poll and share the results. Audience, thank you so much for all your votes. You guys rock. You really do. All right, here we go. Only 4% of today's audience think that they could be considered expert level. 27% of today's audience, though, they said they're above average. They're with me. We know all the lyrics to Stairway to Heaven. We got above average knowledge about all this rock, okay? 29%, so this is the majority, 29% admit they're average. They do know the difference between Whitesnake and White Lion, but they're not any experts. 24% said that they're below average, so about a quarter of today's audience don't even know who sang Crazy Train, and the remaining 16%, you got some posers on here, my friend, 16% of today's webinar, which is a lot of people, I got to tell you.
Well, okay, good. That's good. I appreciate everybody playing along with me. So for those that don't know this about me, I am absolutely a rocker. I'm a music guy actually across the board. I've been playing drums since I was in grade school, and if you've ever been to one of my karaoke events that are typically held with Joe Webb, the Joe and Shaun karaoke-thons, then you know that I love music. Love it, love it, love it. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to be inspired by my buddy the Beard, Greg Gifford, and do somewhat of a thematic presentation with hard rock references. But that brings us to the second very quick poll question, because there's another theme throughout this relative to the title that I need to know the answer to. So, Eliana, hit him up with this next one.
Super easy, super quick. Answer this question, true or false. I have seen the movie This Is Spinal Tap in its entirety when I was sober or partially sober. Please select one of the following answers, true or false. If there was a third answer, it would be, it really doesn't matter, does it? But we only have true or false. I have seen the movie This Is Spinal Tap in its entirety when I was sober or partially sober.
I wonder who wrote these questions.
I have no idea. By the way, Trevor wrote in that he owns it on VHS and DVD.
Then Trevor is my new best friend then.
Trevor, you made it, man. You were on there. He wrote in, hello, Cleveland.
Love it.
Sharpie wrote in,
None more black.
Lenny from Laverne and Shirley was great in that movie.
Yes, he was.
David says he's never seen it. Oh my gosh. Oh no, wait. Kristen said she'd never seen it. Oh. Um, David said, don't forget the movie Heavy Metal. Oh my goodness. We have a lot of people who are into this. Patty said
This
she's
is
never
so
seen it
good.
either. Oh my goodness.
Okay.
Well, I'll tell you what. Let's close this poll and get to it. I I don't think you're going to like this answer though. 73% of today's audience said false. Only 28% of today's audience said true. Wait a minute. 28 plus 73. Let me think about that. What?
Yeah. GoToWebinar.
Yeah,
Strong
GoToWebinar.
polling tools they've got.
No, I mean, if we're turning it up to 11, then this makes perfect sense. Okay, so 73% of today's audience said that they have not seen the movie Spinal Tap in its entirety when sober or partially sober. Sorry to tell you that, Shaun, but here we go. Oh, Zach said
it's
he's
all
seen
good.
it, just not sober.
Okay. Yeah. Well, listen, thank you for paying enough attention to these first two poll questions that are yet a little bit silly, but they kind of set up where I'm going to go. So going to 11, I will go ahead and just tell you right now in Spinal Tap. By the way, it's a fake documentary about a fake early 80s hard rock band that's kind of struggling. They're falling upon tough times, and it is very funny. One of the scenes is they're talking to the lead guitar player. He's showing him his amplifiers, and he talks about how their amplifiers don't just go to 10 when they need a little extra push over the cliff. Well, theirs go to 11. So anyway, there you go. This is why we're going to talk about paid search going to 11. But I'm going to give you guys a little bit of history. So the beginning, if we're going to talk about hard rock in the beginning, some people will say, well, it was Led Zeppelin. Like, they're the fathers, right? Others will say, no, it's Black Sabbath. But who is the beginning of paid search in the automotive realm, right? Well, there's a whole bunch of them, but for complete and open transparency, I used to work for one of them that I really give a lot of credit to kind of getting us started in the type of paid search that most dealers have access to today, and that's Reach Local. So I ran Reach Local's automotive division for a couple of years and really enjoyed that. And at the time, there was no Total Control Dominator. There were no other things. In fact, some of those companies were actually Reach Local's biggest customers, believe it or not. But now we kind of have a conglomeration of machine-based automation rules, kind of autopilot type systems. This is the main choice for dealers today. And it's one of the areas that I want all of the dealers to be conscious of, right? So that you kind of know what's out there and that you're considering, okay, is this the best choice for me? It's not that they're all filled with inherent problems, but there are definitely things that you want to be aware of in how some of the systems work. Because you need to be able to identify whether or not your paid search campaigns have an appetite for destruction. And here's an example. So this isn't so much just based on like a more of a machine or robotic kind of system where I'm typing in a dealership name and an address and maybe a phone number, and then most of the rest of the effort is done by a machine. This isn't just that. This is an example of a program that if you're a General Motors dealer, then you're very much in this system if you're buying a package that comes with paid search, that you really don't have a choice because maybe you're handcuffed to co-op dollars or whatever the situation. Maybe you really believe this kind of paid search is really effective or valuable. But the problem on this page, if you can't really see what I was showing you there, the appetite for destruction here, were those two ads on the right-hand side of the page for a 2015 Chevy Silverado. These are identical ads. They both get the poop emoji because they're absolute crap, and there's another word for that. But that's what this is if you're really the Chevy dealer. If you're one of these two Chevy dealers, this is exactly the same ad. The only difference is your URL. And this is no differentiation for you as a dealer on a page because you're part of a massive program that the manufacturer is perfectly fine with, but you as a dealer, well, somebody's not really, you're giving them your money to spend with Google or Yahoo and Bing as well, and they're doing it in a way that makes you exactly the same. Everybody that comes to this page gets vanilla ice cream even if you hate it, right? Here's another example. As if that example isn't high enough, well, I think Guns N' Roses was super high in this picture. I'm pretty sure because I was there. No, just kidding. But here's another example of something that's like super, like we're smoking like the best stuff ever. Here are 4 ads on the same page for a Chevy Cruze, and they're all identical, right? This is a problem for a dealer who wants to be different, who wants their ad copy to stand out, but this is not a problem for Chevrolet. General Motors could give 2 craps about it. They don't care. Why don't they care? They don't care because they're going to sell more Chevy Cruzes by having a program that works this way across their entire dealer body. But the only ad that has a slight difference to it is in the top left-hand corner, the red box in the top left-hand corner. You'll see a little map pin, and you'll see an address. That's a location call-out. I'm going to talk to you about those in a few minutes. But this is a serious problem, and I want dealers to realize that if you're part of a program like this, you may actually be better off being asleep at the wheel, not knowing how terrible your budget's being spent, or how you're in a program that does nothing to differentiate you, nothing to make you be distinctive. And is it not hard enough today to cut through with your marketing messages, right? A marketing choice for you is advertising on search engines. That's one of the choices that you can make when it comes to, hey, where are we going to spend our money? And I will tell you that it's one of the smartest places. And people will tell you, yeah, but it's only, I've heard people say it's 6% of people that will click on ads. I've heard other people say, well, if they're buyer intentional, then it's up to 60% of those people actually will click on a paid search ad. And we don't have enough time in this presentation, but there's amazing data behind the actual metrics of bounce rates, time on site, conversion data around paid search clicks, even if they're a smaller percentage of your mix than your organic clicks. So I will tell you this. The tip of the spear for you guys that are dealers that are spending money in digital advertising is always and still is search, both organic and paid. If you're not doing both, you should be doing both. And I'm not telling you even that I care who you do it with, you should at least be doing both. Because the other things that are pretty cool, they should be part of your diversified strategy, but that are lower priorities. And the reason for it is that so many of them are part of Marketing 101, which is omnipresence, being everywhere, like remarketing to people and such. So let's keep on moving. We've got one more poll question. Let's get into things that are a little bit more serious. So Eliana, let's go.
Let's go. Okay, your third poll question is on the screen now. We want to know true or false. Is SEM part of your digital marketing mix currently? Please select one of the following answers. True, and we are SEM masters. True, but we aren't quite seeing the results we'd like. True, but I admit we really need help. False, we just haven't taken the plunge yet, but maybe soon. Or false, no way, not going to happen. Not SEM, not at my dealership. We want to know what's happening at your dealership. True or false, SEM is part of our digital marketing mix. Once we get a majority of the votes in, we're going to close the poll and share the results. And by the way, Heather wrote in, Shaun. Heather wrote in, Shaun, everything you're saying so far, you are singing the song of my GM dealer people. It is so frustrating. And Heather, that's exactly why we're having this webinar today. Thank you so much for being here. And Shaun, I already have a majority of the votes in. So if you're ready, I'll close this poll and share the results.
I'm ready. Make it happen.
Let's do it. Okay, 33%, so a third of today's audience said true, and they consider themselves SEM masters. The majority, however, 38% said true, but we aren't quite seeing the results we would like. 19% of today's audience said true, but they admit they really need some help. Only 10% of today's audience said false, haven't quite taken the plunge yet, but maybe soon. And no one answered the last one, which is false, no way, not going to happen. We like SEM around here. All right, Shaun, does that help you out?
Yeah, good stuff. And I wouldn't expect anybody that's like, I hate paid search. SEM's stupid to be on this webinar anyway. So yeah, they are all blissfully ignorant. So that's perfectly fine. Listen, so one of the things that I didn't share with you guys that I did want you to know, I think it's really important, is paid search has been actually a very significant big part of the last 5 to 7 years in my automotive career. And I've really had the whole gamut from websites now back to websites and all these digital marketing components. So I kind of look at it from a perspective that sees the past and the infancy of AdWords and pay-per-click all the way up to what's going on now. And that really is kind of what fueled me to kind of have some fun with this presentation and give you guys some pointers on some things that I think will really help you. So as we kind of get into the rest of this of trying to figure out, hey, are your paid search efforts, PPC, SEM, it's all the same thing, we just call it different things. But how do you know if they're living on a prayer? The rest of the presentation, there will be some questions that come up, and I really want you to know that I'm asking them as if I were you. Like, ask these questions of yourself, and then some tips that will help you unpack some of these areas that can help your campaigns and help you take your results up to 11. And at the end of it, just like Gifford does such a great job with it, you'll have a bit.ly link that has all the questions and a few extra ones on it, and as well as you'll have my contact info because some of you guys might want to talk more deeply about these things. So if you want to find out, you know, what you're actually really doing, you need to know what you're looking for. And so see, some people will immediately go to, well, free clicks are more important, right? Organic free clicks, free clicks. And I then have a conversation after I try not to let them see me laughing when people say that, is free clicks are no longer free clicks. If you're dominating the free clicks, you're paying through the nose, right? You're paying good money to be able to compete organically to get those free clicks today, right? Now, you should be doing it, but they're not really free. They're not really free because if you're not paying, somebody else is, and if they get the advantage of you organically, you're going to be chasing their tail for as long as you're in business, as long as they stay in front of you. Then we can talk about, well, percentage of SEM clicks versus SEO or organic clicks, right? So some people like love to have that conversation. And again, I just mentioned this a couple minutes ago. I would submit to you that there's really great data that everyone should be looking at, that even if Google gave us the perfect number of, yeah, it's actually only 17% of all of the clicks are actually on organic. There have been some studies even a couple of years ago, some not Google, but independent marketing agencies that have done studies where they said it's only 6%, it's 9%. Even if it is, that percentage of all of those clicks has some unbelievable value in it that for me, if I'm a dealership, I'm putting my money there all day long, right? Because I'm only paying if somebody clicks. And if I know how to actually put my stuff together the right way, my clicks are of very, very, very high value. So did you know that there was a study done where they found out that 45% of people are not able to identify paid ads on the search engine results page when there's no right-hand column full of ads?
No.
That's how much Google continually will change up what the search result page looks like, right? Because they're always monetizing. But they're monetizing in a fashion that also makes all of us, the Google users, interact with the page and click on things, right? So they have this delicate balance of, well, we make money from it, but we also allow advertising, and we also allow people to have the best search experience possible. That's us. We're Google. But if you're one of the dealers that actually runs paid search ads and you really know how to optimize your campaigns, you know how to optimize your ads, guess what? You're starting to push the organic stuff further down the page because of how much real estate you're using. There's a lot of really important factors to understand about paid search that is going to make a big difference for you whether you're going to win or you're going to lose. So things like bounce rates and time on site, average page views, CPA, which in AdWords is cost per acquisition. For us in automotive, it's cost per lead is what that means. It's not equal. And I'm not going to badmouth people that my company happens to compete with, but I will tell you that there are people that have all these cool trick things that have been enamoring dealer audiences for years now because, oh, wow, that's so cool. I love it. And it's like better products through marketing, which is actually bullshit. But I'm just telling you, it's not equal, especially when you start to talk about some of these areas. Not everyone has an equal bounce rate. And depending on the page they're landing on, that could be a problem. And sometimes it's not. Sometimes bounce rate is like an irrelevant conversation to have, but sometimes it's really, really important. And especially your cost per lead or your cost per acquisition. I guarantee you some of you guys are running used car campaigns and you have no idea how bad you're getting taken on a cost per lead basis by terribly set up used car campaigns. So remember that, super, super important. Because you can't afford to be this young Ozzy Osbourne with your hit song, I Don't Know. That's not the position you want to be in. You need to know. So here's a good question to ask yourself. How many keywords are in your ad groups? Forever and all time, most of the big machines would set up new car campaigns with hundreds of keywords inside of them. This is no longer effective if you want to have the highest quality score possible. we have way too many acronyms in the car business, but one relative to paid search, and this particular slide is called SKAG, S-K-A-G, which is single keyword ad groups. At DealerOn, our team calls them micro, like a micro strategy. What it is, it's a few keywords per ad group. What it does is allows you to perfectly target, in this case, 2015 Infiniti Q50 with an exact match and a modified broad match in those AdWords settings. The big, huge systems and tools and all that stuff will miss some of these details. The consequence is that you are giving somebody money to spend on your behalf, and they're letting a machine do too much of it and not a human, right? So what you'll end up having in here is you'll have settings that allow broad matching to happen, and I'll show you some terrible examples of when keywords are set and ad groups are set up terribly, especially in mobile, in a few more slides. But it's super important to think about a single keyword ad group strategy when you're setting up your campaigns. Because if you're going to bang your head, if you're really going to come on and feel the noise, you got to be able to ask all these right questions. Like, hey, once we set up these ad groups, how many mobile ads are we running? The tip here is that you should be running campaigns that you split test, right? So that you've got at least 3 desktop ads. My preference is that you have 2 mobile preferred ads, and that they run in split test rotations so that you kill the ones that suck, and then you rotate in new ones. So you're constantly adding that new ad copy to find out what is good, right? If you just have a system that just kind of keeps running those things and they're using some sort of templated system and those ads continue to circulate, you may not be getting fresh content. It may be because there's a robot paying attention to your campaign, not a person. And that can be a consequence, especially if you want to be different in automotive. If you want to actually have better results in automotive, you're going to have actually some blood, sweat, and tears off of a real human being that pumps blood and breathes oxygen. It's just the fact. So is your campaign a rainbow in the dark? Well, if you don't know who Ronnie James Dio is in that song, then that, again, you will not get these hard rock references. But if you're running a campaign that's a rainbow in the dark, you need to ask yourself some things like, are you using ad extensions, right? So you always want to include call, location, call out extensions as well as site links, because it gives you the ability to not just take up more real estate on the page. That's usually a common answer. If you were in front of me in person right now, I'd ask that question to you guys if you were in the room with me. Hey, why would we want to set up campaigns with all of these things? And a lot of people will say, in fact, usually 95+%, it's like real estate. It takes up more, and it's true. But if you want your ads to have looks that kill, Motley Crue reference, then it should look like
I get it. I get it.
I know. I have to tell all these people, but I tell you what, after we're done with this, when any of you see me at NADA or somewhere, you're going to want to go out and like listen to some hard rock. I've seen Motley Crue in Vegas during NADA at one point in time. So anyway, so this type of setup with your ad isn't just so that you can take up more real estate, although that is a correct answer. It's correct. But it's also for the person that wants your phone number right now. If the call extension doesn't exist, you see the arrow pointing to the phone number, right? Then I can't take immediate action on, I'm going to call you, right? If you have something that is really, really compelling that you want people to know, maybe about a model you're trying to move, maybe about some sort of promotion or sale that's going on that you think will get somebody's attention, that's engagement focused, then you need to be using call-out extensions for that. And then, of course, site links, right? You've got location extensions as well that are important so that you have address. Well, site links are another example of when we don't have those. That's the way for somebody to link directly into a part of your site, right? So there's a bunch of reasons why you want to use all of these options in setting up your campaigns. Yes, it's real estate, but it's also sometimes you give somebody without having to go through any more brain damage of hitting your terrible website, at least if you don't have a DealerOn site, then once they get there, you may lose them, right? So this is another component that you need to think about. Another one is ask yourself, are your ads living after midnight? Because in the still of the night, this
is good. This is all good stuff, Shaun.
I feel like I want to sing these songs every time I set one of these up. Anyway, in the still of the night, guess what? Conversion rates go down. And on Sundays, when your dealership isn't open, conversion rates go down. So you want to ask yourself this question: what's my ad schedule? What's that look like? And if you get into AdWords and you see this, showing ads all the time, this equals somebody is not spending your money wisely. In fact, they're wasting your money. When our team here sets up campaigns, the longest we would ever really have a campaign run where we want to show the ads all the time, and most of the time we would never do this, but if we did, it's because we're not certain, because maybe a dealership is in a state where they can be open on a Sunday, or maybe their hours are strange, or whatever. But in most cases, what we see consistently after 11 p.m. and before 6 a.m., so between 11 p.m. and 6 a.m., conversion rates are very, very different. But most people's ads, when we do an audit or we do an analysis for a dealer, they're still paying the exact same amount. There's no bid modification. There's no thought around how do we spend wiser on certain times of the day and days of the week.
Wait.
So your budget allocation and your bids should be changed or switched up based on knowing what's going on with these campaigns. Were you going to ask a question, Eliana?
Yeah, I didn't know that. You can, when you set up your SEM campaign, you can actually not have it show up at certain times of the day?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Absolutely.
Cool.
You can actually say, hey, if my ad's going to show up at 2 o'clock in the morning when somebody's probably doing something they'll need to go to church for on Sunday, and they happen to click on my ad, I don't want to pay as much for it. Yeah, you can do that too. You certainly can. So, yeah, pretty cool, huh? Super, super cool. Hey, let's ask another poll question because I wanted to have more poll questions than any other webinar presenter ever has in the history of DealerOn webinars. Go.
Well, then you're working your way there. All right, audience, your fourth poll question is on the screen now. We'd love to know what you have to say about this. The question is, how often do you evaluate the performance of your SEM campaigns? And, of course, Shaun had to put at the end, be honest. Like you'd be anything other than honest. Honestly, Shaun. All right, please select one of the following answers. Do you do it daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, or what? You think we check our SEM campaign performance? That's right. How often do you evaluate the performance of your SEM campaigns? Daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, or I don't know what you're talking about. Once we get a majority of the votes in, we're going to close the poll and share the results. Also want to remind you, my valued audience, to please, if you have questions for the great Shaun Raines, send them in. We're going to be getting to the Q&A session very shortly. And if you haven't yet downloaded the handout, which is, of course, this deck, hey, you can do that at any time directly through the GoToWebinar interface. Okay, Shaun, if you're ready, I'm going to close this poll and wow, look at these results. Woo! Is there a right answer to this?
No.
No. All right. Well, let's close the poll and share the results so you can see what everyone else is doing. All right. So when we ask the question, how often do you evaluate the performance of your SEM campaigns? Only 8% of today's audience said that they do it daily. 32%, about a third of today's audience, said that they'd like to do it weekly. The majority, however, almost half, 45% of today's audience, say that they do it monthly. Only 5% of today's audience said that they do it quarterly, and the remaining 11% of today's audience, they admit they have no idea what we're talking about.
Okay, fair enough. That's good. That's called that's honesty, which that would be a Billy Joel song, and he isn't rock hard enough to make it into this presentation. But I appreciate it. I do.
All right. We do have one more poll question coming your way, audience, so sit tight.
Lucky people. For those of you that haven't seen the movie Spinal Tap, then you're not really going to understand why I used this to set up my next talking point. But if you do see the movie, then you'll get it. And here's the short summary. That's a little tiny replica of Stonehenge. And the fake band had a song called Stonehenge. And they had this great idea when they were probably under the influence that they would have a giant Stonehenge replica come down from the rafters during the song. And they wrote these dimensions down on a cocktail napkin to give it to the person that was going to build it. And they wrote down 18 inches, not 18 feet. So there you go. Watch the movie. You will laugh. And probably even if you are completely sober, you'll probably laugh. Anyway, If you don't like it, I'm not giving you your money back. But I also own it on VHS and DVD. So if you're ever in Texas, let me know. We'll go to the man cave and you can watch it with me. All right. So that sets up for me micro moments. This is another phrase coined by Google. So makes me wonder if somebody's going to come up with a business name called micro moments, probably. But micro moments, as Google started to talk about them a few months ago, and some of the stuff that comes out from Think with Google, these are moments that are created by our mobile devices. In the last year alone, and these statistics all came from this Google article from, I think, September. Maybe it might have been October. In the last year, mobile's share of online sessions went up by 20%. Time on site, however, decreased by almost the same amount, 18%. So those two metrics alone, you'd think, well, that's weird. Like, okay, so more people are using their mobile phone, right? But they're not spending as much time on sites when they get there. But that doesn't mean that that's a bad thing, because here on the right-hand side, conversions for mobile devices went up almost 30%. So what this means is that we're able to access things so much faster, and our mobile phones get us to the right information. We also have formatting as it relates to mobile ads that are giving us the options to do things that allow conversion to happen extremely fast, much faster than ever before. Responsive website design, obviously, when it's done right, it makes conversion off of a mobile device super simple, very clean, easy to do. Mobile optimized ads, call-only ads, super easy for conversion to happen. So I tell you this and share with you this because it's extremely important to make sure that you actually are having specific mobile targeted ads built in your campaigns, and definitely that you would be running some call-only ads. So a mobile targeted ad on the left-hand side of the page kind of looks like that. Okay, there you go, you got some mobile target. But it's formatted specifically for the ad messaging to show up the way it's supposed to on a mobile device. And if you go in and look at a lot of settings in AdWords campaigns for dealers, these things are sometimes not set up at all, in fact, way too often, or they're not set up properly. And a lot of dealers are not running call-only ads. And this is an ad format that's targeting a mobile user for giving them only one option, and that is to call your dealership. Google has suspended DLAs, which were dealer listing ads, which gave two options, either directions or call the dealership. That's on pause. If you nerd and geek out on kind of Google AdWords and things they're doing, then you'll see that they actually make changes and put things out on a pretty frequent basis. And it's like, okay, should we or shouldn't we? And then when they work, they'll typically keep them in, and when they don't. Well, call-only ads is relatively new, and it's super effective. So if you're not running call-only ads for mobile, you need to be doing that. It's extremely important. You'll thank me later. Wait. That's a White Lion song. It's their biggest hit. Wait. Wait. I never got a chance to love you, man. And everyone loves their lead singer, except for my dad. He was like, what are you into this stuff for? They all look like girls. I'm like, okay, sorry, Dad. You guys rock, man. I'm going to give you a party every day bonus tip. And it's simple. Don't be a jackass. That's Johnny Knoxville from the show Jackass. Blindfolded with a cigarette, waiting for a bull to hit him. That's a jackass. Here we go.
Did that work out okay for him?
You can go to YouTube. You can find it all right there. So here's some jackassery. This is from a mobile screenshot. This is me looking for Ford Mustang Dallas, Texas, and I find used Ford Mustang from centralkia-carrollton.com. Fantastically shortened up URL. Just kidding. But I click on it on my mobile phone, and then I go here, which also got the poop emoji, because this is garbage too. So I go to their site. Now I clicked on used Ford Mustang, and look at where the arrow's pointing. It took me to their new inventory, and then told me this fantastic bit of information. Sorry, no items matching your request were found. I'm not trying to beat up on Central Kia of Louisville. I really don't care. I'm not. What I'm more concerned about on their behalf is whoever is running these paid search campaigns, they're wasting their money. Because guess what? Just because it went to the wrong place, just because this is set up the wrong way, doesn't mean they don't have to pay for it. They paid for my click. They paid for my click, and all they got was ridicule from me by showing up in one of my presentations. That's not very cool. Nobody wants that. But this is an example of the type of thing that happens all the time. And when it's happening on mobile devices, do you think you're going to get conversion out of that? Nope, you're not. You're going to get a bounce rate that you should be aware of and a reason for it. Here's some more things that should not be. More poop emoji. Here you go. Let's look at the left-hand side. Used Toyota Tundra, Dallas, Texas. I get an ad for used Toyota Tundra, Dallas, a Cowboy Toyota. When I first saw this, I felt bad because Cowboy Toyota actually unintentionally made it into a presentation that I've done a couple of times on branding about the Cowboy way, but I don't have time to tell you about that. I've done it on a DealerOn webinar, actually. But this happened to show up where I'm like, okay, it's close. They could have gone one step further. They dropped me off in their entire pre-owned inventory. They didn't have to go that much further to drop me off in their Tundra inventory. Or have a Tundra landing page, if you want, built into the site, okay. But it took me to a place where, and I obviously can't do it because these are static slides, but as you scroll through there, the first scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, there were no Tundras on this page, just a bunch of other used vehicles in their inventory. Again, these are the small components that will make a dealer really frustrated if somebody like me comes in and says, well, this is the reason why your conversion rate could go much higher. This is why you're providing a bad mobile experience, right? And I don't, by the way, whoever does this, I don't think this is intentional, right? I not at all. I think it's attention to detail that sometimes gets missed that will make all the difference in the world. In fact, I don't think that. I know that. So here's what they could have done. They could have, as you see on the right-hand side, I switched it over to Be All Tundras. They could have landed me here. If I'm looking for a used Toyota Tundra, and I'm like, whoa, they've got some cool ones. Look at that blue one down there. It's pretty awesome, right? They could have done that, but they didn't. They put me here in just the pre-owned inventory. Well, the dealer is paying for that, right? They're giving you money to spend on their behalf, right? Do it right. Here's another example of more. No, it's terrible. Used Toyota Tundra again, and I get Stonebriar Chevy, Texas, which they're like 5 minutes from my house, coincidentally. So I click on theirs, and it's even worse. Oh, great. I go to the homepage for Stonebriar Chevy, but I'm interested in a used Toyota Tundra. I might hate Silverados. I might be like, I can't stand Chevrolet, right? I had a Cobalt. My ignition switch failed. Who knows, right? There could be a serious problem where I don't like it. If you want to get somebody's interest, even if you are a Chevy, or you're off-brand from what somebody's looking for in used cars, you absolutely have to pay attention to detail of how these things are set up, or you're going to lose. You're not going to win, and at the end of the month, you're going to have to try to get a dealer. You guys are going to be having people try to have you focused on a click-through rate. Well, a bunch of people clicked through to that. Okay, great. And the cost you paid for it was it's in the ballpark. Okay, great. Well, if you're going to have a conversation about click-through rate and cost per click, and that's the money bell for you, you're going to get taken advantage of because no one's ever going to tell you why you should spend more to increase your impression share with any real logic behind it. No one's ever going to tell you that, listen, your mobile conversions have been going up with a bunch of people you compete against, but their campaigns are set up better than you. You have no call-only campaigns set up, so you're not tracking that. I mean, somebody is going to blow you out of the water if they know what they're doing. Super, super important. So let's move on. You do have to try new things, and I'm a big advocate of this because everything that's ever dropped on the internet since the late 90s has been stuff that you can let's see how this works for 30 days. Or maybe let's see how it works for a quarter. And then we can say, did it work? Did we sell more cars? Did we not sell more cars? Okay. Now we just decide, do we keep doing it? Do we invest more into it? Do we scrap it and try something else? It's the best thing about the internet, right? There's so much guesswork that's been removed, so try new things. When RLSA came out, you don't have to raise your hand if you don't know what RLSA is. It's a remarketing list for search ads. So you've heard the term remarketing as it relates to display ads. Well, you need to ask yourself this question. Are you using RLSA, or is it set up, and are you tracking those results in your AdWords account? This is a specific AdWords setting. And do you then have these custom audiences built for these remarketing lists? Because when you do this, you get to remarket based on what people are typing into Google and searching. Search terms, search keywords that you're remarketing based off of. This isn't the same as somebody visited your website, you stamped them like a baby seal on a National Geographic documentary, followed them around the internet, and showed them your display ads, right? That remarketing exists. It's cool. That's fine, right? I would never spend money on that over dominating yourself in both paid and organic search, but you can do this, and it works brilliantly for car dealers setting up RLSA. So the question is, are you? And if you're not, the tip is make sure that you are and test at least 3 audiences. Not only this, I'm going to tell you that there's another thing that you need to think about, and that's that you would jump into things that are even maybe more progressive or newer than what we have with RLSA, and that would be customer match. So customer match is really Google's way of saying we can't be outdone by Facebook, right? Because now Facebook, it's not, hey, how many likes can we get for our dealership? Like, screw that. Like, use Facebook as an advertising platform because their targeting capabilities, they have been, but they only continue to get more laser and surgical in nature, that it's almost like the early days of AdWords of how you can, it's no longer you showed up to a party you weren't supposed to be at. You want to actually show an ad to somebody very specifically based on what age they are, what gender they are, if they bought a car recently, what their hobbies and interests are, how much money they make, all that kind of stuff. It's huge. Well, so Facebook has this targeted audiences and then a lookalike audience that you can build. Well, Google says we need to do something like that too with AdWords. So customer match gives you the ability to upload email addresses. How many of you dealers have not been aggregating and saving up and stockpiling email addresses for the last 10 plus years? You all have. So you can upload email addresses and you will be, then Google will match them to signed in Google users. And you can build campaigns and target ads to those audiences. And you can even segment those audiences. But what's even, I think, even a little cooler about this, because there's some similarities to this, to RLSA, is you can actually create a similar audience. So you've uploaded all your email addresses and you've got that whole thing going on, and it's really cool. But people that would be similar to who were already your customers then can be identified through the Google platform. So now you have the ability to potentially be building specific campaigns to reach new people that might be on YouTube or in Gmail, right? They're a Google user matched up. The very cool thing. So we have been, for the last few months now, working with Customer Match to figure out, what we like and what we don't like, what will end up being our ongoing recommendations for our clients. And we're seeing some really great things with it. The similarities between it and RLSA are pretty cool, but then the differences are also really cool. RLSA has a time limitation, right? Because it is based on similar to like a cookie, where you've got like 100, I think it's 180 days. I'll have to double check that, but I think it's 180 days life cycle there when you're doing RLSA. With Customer Match, there is no timeline. So that's a pretty cool thing, especially if you were going to segment to run ads to people that you wanted something very specific, perhaps based on a birthday or coming out of lease or something. There's a lot of really cool things with this. So targeting, as it relates to your AdWords campaigns, is continuing to get smarter and better. And then you also have to worry about the stuff that Google just dropped even recently, where it's like, oh, okay, no, we have all these, let's make it Super AdWords for Dummies version, where they'll actually do these things that try to optimize your campaign and make all these things happen without you really knowing what's going on. You have to be careful of those things too, because Google sometimes comes out with really cool, awesome ideas, and sometimes they come out with ideas that if you're not paying attention, it's really kind of lazy in nature. Good for them, not necessarily good for advertiser. So we try to, stay watchdog on that for our dealers and stay on point. So let's talk a little bit about targeting. So targeting is another place where a lot of campaigns will fail, and they're never going to get to 11 because your bullseyes are on the wrong target. So ask yourself these questions. How are you targeting your current customers? Are you using any geo-bid modifiers around your top-performing zip codes? Because you should be. And are you targeting customers with income tier bid modifiers? If you're selling highline, exotic, luxury, you definitely want somebody that knows what to look for in setting up income tier bid modification on your campaigns. A lot of dealers that have those types of brands are like, man, yeah, I don't know, like they'll fall out of love with paid search. Why? I'll tell you why. because they're using somebody that intention might be great, but the system that is working that on behalf is not thinking of those other factors, nor does it even have it inherently built in to all of the automation to actually account for these factors that come out way after their platform has been built, right? So anything new that comes down the pipeline is not inherently automatically in the systems that are built. And again, it's not me bashing all them, it's just a reality. Those, by the way, all those companies that have those systems, they can have those systems work in conjunction with the person going in and dialing up these campaigns. The question is, do they have people that really know what the F they're doing to do that? And then are they going to do it on an ongoing basis? Because now we start to talk about, is your business model set up to have a person actually working their ass off around AdWords campaigns every day for you and your dealers? Or is it more built on, hey, we need this person to manage 200 dealers on paid search, which is impossible to do. So that's more of my, I want you dealers to be thinking of that and considerate of that. I guarantee you, some of you that are working and you have campaigns running on some of those systems, you can tell them that you listen to me and maybe they'll be a little bit pissed. But if they really love you, they will work with you. They'll try to accommodate these things and try to figure things out. So I don't want people to think it's all hate speech. Just like, I got a lot of love too, so just don't get me wrong. Don't turn on me. So I would tell you, your tip is target multiple radiuses, especially go into zip code targeting, because then you can go historical sales data, get really surgical in what's really performing, and this is definitely a way for you to actually optimize your campaign for much better results. Listen, I used to do it all the time. It was the only kind of thing we had available to us, is we just drew a big circle around your zip code, or your address, or sometimes we would modify it, so we'd make a pin drop somewhere else so that we could try to be creative in places that are really difficult. But when you do this, and I'll show you a visual example of it in just a second, no way, yeah, way, I will, is the no bueno versus bueno targeting. On the left-hand side, this is just a circle kind of around Philadelphia. This person is, the dealership's in, like, say, Westchester. Well, if we do this, there's a whole bunch of area in that circle that, yeah, you'll get some clicks from, but they will never be high quality. The conversion rates will be total garbage, and you don't want to waste money that way. But on the right side, if you start to do the zip code targeting, you're going to give yourself some really great sales data, and over time, you can take that trending historical sales data and get even better at actually making sure that when you get just those few clicks that are on the paid search ads, well, guess what? They're all going to be super valuable to you if you're doing it the right way. I guarantee you. All right, so well, you guys might know that one. She's my cherry pie. Okay, so how much pie? How much pie?
You're really reaching there. You're really reaching there, Shaun.
Here is the question. So your impression share, right? There's a certain, think of it as, I did a Wednesday workshop video like this as just an analogy, right? Your market area represents like a delicious pie, right? How much of it do you want? You want all of it, man. You want every single bit of it. But your impression share is the percentage of the pie that you're actually getting. And what's left there is what you're giving up to anyone else that's bidding on the words, the keywords that you want, right? So the tip is chase 100% impression share. And if you think about it, if you're a dealer and you're like super smart, and I know all of you are, you'd be like, yeah, that's just your way of like trying to get more money from us. Guess what? If you actually know what to go in and look at in AdWords, even if you ran it yourself, you would know that you'd be chasing 100% impression share, because you want to be everywhere somebody might be looking for you. If you're not there raising your hand, then somebody else will do it. So some people will use this particular topic maybe to try to get you to spend more money, but it's actually the best indicator for you to look at and say, man, could we be getting more? And what would the effect be of us getting more impression share, increasing impression share? So I'm speeding up a little bit so that I can get through and land this plane, and we're almost there. So AdWords access. Do you have AdWords access? I've had this conversation about 67,000 times in the last, I don't know how, it's like comes up all the time when I bring it up. Okay, so should you? Yes, you should. Why? Transparency, being able to see things. Now, here's the reality. Most dealers, if they had complete open access to AdWords, are not even going to know how to go and look at the things that I've been sharing with you for the last few minutes, right? And I understand that. But the openness and the transparency, well, how is that working? It's really important, because the less you know, the more you get taken advantage of. If you didn't write that down, you should have. The less you know, the more you get taken advantage of.
That's so
Not
weird
just in
that you
paid
just
search.
said that. I was just going to say, Ray wrote this in like 10 minutes ago, and Ray wrote in, SEM is a whole lot of work, and when dealers rarely check performances, SEM companies are getting away with murder. That's a direct quote from Ray.
Yeah, it's well said, well said. So it's super important, really important, and I'm an advocate of this. For any of you that have ever seen me present before, you might have even seen, I've had this slide that I've used before with this cute baby face, and they're eating a little bite of like delicious Gerber food. I'm a big fan of using that as the analogy or the visual to tell dealers, stop taking these baby food like Gerber jars from people that come in and want you to keep eating baby food. Your dependency on eating baby food means that you can be taken advantage of just like a baby. I can take your candy away. I can let you cry yourself to sleep. I can do whatever I want because you're a baby, but you're not. You guys are full-grown humans, and you need to be able to eat steak because steak is awesome. Even vegans know that it tastes delicious. They're just much more self-controlled.
Oh my
God.
God.
Listen, I know it's terrible. Like all the vegans are leaving the call right now. Just kidding. Whatever. Uncontroversial. So here's the deal.
Making friends, Shaun. Making friends.
Who doesn't want to be my friend? If you don't want to be my friend, I really don't care. Because they, of course they do. I'm a nice guy. But here's the thing on AdWords Access. I know that all dealers won't know what to look for, and they wouldn't necessarily know how to go and make modifications. And let me say, in defense of a lot of the companies that say, we do not want to give you access to AdWords. Not all of them say, no, we don't want to give you access, because they're completely bending you over and taking all of your money without you knowing it. Not all of them are doing that. Some are doing that. Some of them are deathly afraid that you or somebody that's in your ear wants to go in there and start to make changes. And if they really are, if they've already set up campaigns and you're getting good results and anything disrupts that, well, they're on the hook for that. So I understand both sides of the equation. But the reality is that anybody that asks me, because we do give our clients access to their AdWords account, I tell them it's fully transparent. I wouldn't go in there and touch anything. I would click on nothing unless you know what you're doing. But guess what you get with us is, your account manager, well, you already know what you get with them. They talk to you about this every day if you want to, every week if you want to, at the worst case scenario, once a month. And they go in and show you stuff so that you know that, right? And you have access to people. You can call Shaun Raines if you want to. He'll totally pick up the phone and talk to you about AdWords or SEO or social or websites or whatever. We have an extremely open door kind of stance with the industry because we love to have the conversations. We're really not about trying to get in fights with other people that are vendors or whatever. I really don't care what everyone else is doing. I care what I'm telling dealers, and having AdWords access is super, super important. And if you're a company that says, I don't want to or we're not going to, then just have a legitimate reason for why you're not going to do that. You have to be able to answer those questions. Trust me, I've already been down the road where I had to say no or I couldn't answer questions that were almost impossible to say, well, I'm not going to give you an answer, and not have a dealer say, well, that makes me really question you. Right? I don't want to be in that situation, so that's not the way we roll things. So if you ask for AdWords access and the answer is no, you can't have it, then my recommendation would be here. And if you don't know Twisted Sister and really the songs that broke them, then you won't get this either. But I would say, how about a nice cup of we're not going to take it, no, we ain't going to take it, we're not going to take it anymore. So this is just this isn't take the power back, but this is definitely stop letting people feed you baby food, right? And allow yourself to close the knowledge gap. You do not have to become an expert in any of these things. You do not have to become an AdWords or a paid search expert. You don't. But a very base level of knowledge will keep you from being taken advantage of. And even more importantly, and I say this all the time, not only do I give Hot Wheels away at all my live presentations, but I oftentimes say this because it's true. If you haven't started building a circle of trust with people that you can always count on, that have never betrayed you and you believe never will betray you, you need to begin to build that immediately. And maybe that's with a fellow dealer. Maybe that's with somebody that's a vendor. Maybe that's somebody that you met at your 20 group. I don't know who these people are, but you will know who those people are, and you'll identify them. And even if it starts with a party of one and you, that's it. Start there so that you can have these conversations to share knowledge, and then continue to build the circle of trust. And a circle of trust that's focused on getting smarter in all of these areas. Because the smarter you get, the more difficult it is for somebody to take advantage of you. The smarter you get, the more difficult it is for someone to take advantage of you. It's your money. AdWords is a perfect example. Hey, Shaun, we want to spend $18,000 a month in paid search with you guys. Well, fantastic. Do I get $18,000? Hell no. I get a small percentage. The dealers don't even want to pay that to give them killer awesome service, right? That $18,000 doesn't come to your agency or whomever you're picking. That's just supposed to be spent, right? And a percentage or a fee, right, goes to them. And it has to be worth it. So then you're like, oh, I get it. I understand why you have like more of an elite agency fee and you guys want 25% of my budget. Yeah, that's a real number. Some are more than that. But guess what? If they're doing the right job and getting you the right results, you might be willing to pay that every day of the week. And let the other guy have to say, well, we're only 12%. Yeah, because you're garbage. There's a difference. But you won't know what it is unless you allow yourself to have at least a baseline of knowledge. Okay. I think this is the last poll question. Sorry for so many poll questions. And then we're gonna fast forward to the end of this thing.
There you go. All right, last poll question, audience, and it is a tough one. Let me tell you. We want to know, and you can only pick one answer, which SEM performance metric is most important to you? Please select one answer. Is it the CTR or the click-through rate, the CPC or the cost per click? Is it the number of impressions that does it for you? Maybe it's the impression share that you feel is most important. Or do you like CPA, cost per acquisition or cost per lead? Once we get a majority of the votes in, we're going to close the poll and share the results. Which SEM performance metric is most important to you? Click-through rate, cost per click, number of impressions, impression share, or cost per lead? And, ooh, we got a lot of action on this question, Shaun. Are you still there? I hear you banging around out there.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, you're still there?
Oh, yeah.
All right, Shaun, almost everyone has voted on this one. So I say we close this poll and share the results. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All righty. And by the way, I was trying to figure out how in the heck Twisted Sister was going to meet up with AdWord Access, because I'm pretty sure they didn't do a song called AdWord Access. So thank you for closing that loop for me. All right, 24%, about a quarter of today's audience, picked click-through rate. They said that was the most important to them. No one picked cost per click. Only 10% of today's audience said it was the number of impressions that was most important. 14% of today's audience say it's impression share that impresses them. And the majority, 52% of today's audience, say it's the CPA, cost per acquisition or cost per lead. That's the SEM performance metric that means the most. Shaun, is there a right answer to this?
Yes and no. I mean, it's a bigger question than to be very candid with the audience. I wanted to know what the audience for this webinar would be mostly focused on. For me and our team, I can only speak for us, we are very, very focused on two of those metrics as very important ones for dealers, and that would be what the majority said, which is cost per acquisition or cost per lead, and driving the lowest cost per lead that we possibly can. And it varies based on new car campaigns to used car campaigns, but we're typically chasing CPAs that are always focused on less than $35. Sometimes you get there and sometimes you don't, but there's a million variables to that, and all of you guys that have been doing this are really familiar with it, know that sometimes that's really, really challenging. It just depends. Brands, there's obviously factors of what type of used inventory, how well it's managed, if you're running dynamic ads. So there's a lot of things there, but CPA is really, really important to us, and impression share is really important to us because there are a million different really important correlation points to great campaign success that are that come up after what you're doing in impression share. So.
And Tim wrote in, he said, this is a really hard poll question. They all matter to him. So I'm sure this was maybe a little bit of a difficult question for some of our audience members to answer. But audience, you did a great job. Thank you so much. And if you have a question for Shaun Raines, please send them in. We're going to be getting to that Q&A session very shortly.
Thank you all very much for that. So there are a couple of honorable mentions because we're about to get this thing done. And these three bands didn't actually get their own slide. They were very close: Megadeth, Iron Maiden, and the Scorpions. And I just felt like I should probably tell you guys that if you're not listening to these bands on a semi-regular basis, if you have heart condition, probably only listen to them once per quarter. But if you just need some great rock and roll, I would start you with the Scorpions. They will work you all the way up to about the Iron Maiden level, and then you'll find out whether you like kind of an operatic, very powerful voice in a band from England. If you don't, because they have scary Eddie monsters on all their album covers, then you may switch over to Megadeth, which is more thrash or speed metal, but pretty good. So
Wesley
I just wanted to call those guys out.
Wesley wrote in, sorry, Shaun, nice presentation, but how could you miss Iron Maiden?
Yeah, I know. Well, to be quite honest with you, the stuff that I had up for Iron Maiden, I was like, I think it will scare people, and I had to throw it in at the very end because people would be like, "That's weird," or "You love the devil," or something, which is not true. So.
Yeah, but you seriously couldn't work in Scorpions, "Rock You Like a Hurricane"? I mean, come on, really?
Well, hey, I mean, at least something. Yeah, exactly, something. No. So as we close this out, let me tell you that this is the bit.ly link you can go to, the bit.ly/SEM-questions. So this is just a Google Doc that I made really just for dealers that I talk to on a regular basis. And so I just thought, you know what, I'm going to throw it in this presentation. So some of these questions are ones that you ask yourself or you ask your agency or whoever you're partnering with on paid search. None of the questions are kind of a sales focused in nature. They're just questions that you should be asking. It doesn't have every single question. It doesn't cover every single topic or every single wrinkle within paid search that I'd like to talk about or that I can talk about, but it's a really great place for you to go and have some, I don't even call it ammunition. It's just a good place for you to go. And then beyond that, I didn't add it into the deck, but I will tell you, I'm a really big fan of SearchEngineWatch.com and SearchEngineLand.com. Also, Moz is a great resource. And then the fourth one that I'll give you is WordStream, which they do actually, they can manage paid search for people. They're not really much of a player in automotive, but they actually put out a lot of great educational content as well. Their blog usually has some really great stuff. So, and if you're ever just kind of hungry or thirsting for, like, I wonder what Raines would like be reading up on, or what does he like to, follow or pay attention to, and you don't remember these things, you can always hit me up, send me something on Twitter, or send me an email, and I'd be more than happy to share with you in the future. So there you go. That's how you get up to 11. Those questions will help you out. And we've got a little bit of time. I don't know how much time, but we've got some questions. If we have questions, we can shoot with them right now, Eliana, or we can move on. It's up to you.
Actually, yes. Now, we do have a ton of questions that already came in. If you haven't gotten in your question yet for Shaun Raines, then please send it in. What is Shaun's Twitter handle? @Shaun Raines. We like to keep it simple. Actually, we're going to get to your questions in just a moment. So send those questions in, and we're going to help you get up to an 11, all right? Before we do that, though, we got some fun to take care of. Shaun, go to the next slide if you wouldn't mind, because it's that time. If you missed it at the beginning of the webinar, I announced that DealerOn is giving away a super cool prize today on the webinar. One of you lucky webinar attendees is going to win an Amazon Echo. Oh, yeah, it's so cool. I got to tell you, I actually have this. You're going to love it. My husband, my kid, we all love it, and it is really, really cool, and it makes me feel like we're part of the Jetsons or something like that. But you're going to want one of these bad boys, so get ready, get to your keyboards. First person to write in the correct response to our giveaway question is going to be winning this sweet prize today. And if you're a vendor, we're going to ask you to please sit this one out. We do appreciate you being here and supporting the DealerOn webinar series, but this prize is intended for dealership personnel. All right, everyone, here we go. Good luck. This is not easy. I know you want it. Everyone's writing in that they want it. The prize question Shaun is throwing us a curveball today. The prize question is a combo. You must answer both questions to win. First person to answer both takes the prize. Make sure your answer is on one line. So I'm going to give you the first question first and then the second question. So make sure you put the answer to the first question first and then answer to the second question and then send it in. All right? It's not easy. I'm not going to lie. All right, here we go. Part one of your two-part question. What does RLSA stand for? What does RLSA stand for? So answer that. And then part two is, where is it? Part two. On the screen is a picture. Name these two super famous rock and roll brothers. Oh, that's not easy. That's got to be on one line. So first you want to answer, what does RLSA stand for? And then put a dash, and then put, name these two super famous rock and roll brothers. Now, it's okay if they just put, like, the last name, right? They don't have to actually put the first and the last names, do they? Shaun?
I'll let you be the judge.
All right, let's see who won this bad boy. Ooh, what does RLSA stand for? No. No. This is really hard. Oh, we might. Oh no, they got the second part wrong. Oh my gosh, this is not easy. We got. Oh my gosh, he got it. You weren't the first one to write it in, but you were the first one to write it in correctly. That is correct. Oh my gosh. RLSA stands for Remarketing Lists for Search Ads. And that, my friends, are the Van Halen brothers. And the first person to get it correct is Tim Dill. Congratulations, Tim Dill. You are today's winner. Tim Dill, a winner of an Amazon Echo. You are correct. That is Eddie and Alex Van Halen. How could you mistake that? Look at that. I mean, seriously? Eddie Van Halen looks exactly the same still, I think. All right, Tim, congratulations. Write on in. Let me know what dealership you're from. I'll also need your mailing address for you, my friend. Thank you, everyone, for playing along. Hope you enjoyed it. And don't worry, you didn't win today. It's okay. Tim's the only winner today. But you know what? We give away cool prizes every week. So come on back to another DealerOn webinar. Who knows? That might be your lucky day to win a cool prize on a DealerOn webinar. All right? We want to thank our good friend Shaun Raines for making it fun today, picking out such a cool prize. And Tim, congratulations. And we're going to get ready now to get to those Q&A session and get to your questions. Okay, Tim, cool. Thank you so much for sending me your mailing address. We really appreciate it. Congratulations. You're going to get that prize directly from DealerOn. So check your mail every day until that bad boy comes, all right? All right, Shaun, you ready for some questions from the audience?
Oh, I guess so.
All right, your first question comes to you from Ray. And Ray says, in your opinion, Shaun, which is more effective? Models in ad groups or separate campaigns?
I like them in separate campaigns. I like this single keyword ad group strategy. So I would like, in the one that I showed, Infinity in the model, usually maybe 2 or 3 keyword variations, not much. And obviously you're going to have more when you have things like F-150s or Tahoes, things that have a lot of variation within model, Mustangs. Yeah, but I'm a big fan of the single keyword ad group strategy where they're separate.
Gotcha. Okay, Ray, thank you so much for the great question. And Suzanne wanted to let you know, this goes back to the third poll question that we asked. She says that she checks her campaign effectiveness depending on the stage of the campaign. So the first couple of months, she checks it every day. And then she lays off a little bit. So thank you so much for that, Suzanne. All right, your next question comes to you from Jennifer. Jennifer writes in, Eliana and Shaun, I'm asking this question now because I may not be able to stay until the end. I want to make sure I get it in. Now that Google has removed the option to choose your geo search location, how is this really going to affect us long term as far as SEM? And how can we be pragmatic in combating any negative effects from it, if so? That's from Jennifer.
Yeah, anytime they make changes like that, sometimes they're not forever, sometimes they're temporary, sometimes there's backlash. So it's kind of hard to give you a definitive answer. And one of the things that we really like to see dealers paying attention to when it comes to geo is what they're doing organically for local SEO as well, so that they have influence on not just what happens in the paid search side, but also like local from map packs and what they're doing with link building of businesses that are local to them to make themselves relevant organic as well. So to predict the future, kind of difficult there, but right now I would say the type of targeting that you're already setting up with your campaigns, I think probably still the most effective thing, at least for us, to focus on is making sure that we're looking at what's happening within the zip codes as we actually are setting up campaigns, to see what kind of performance data is there, and that's kind of our focus. But that's going to be an interesting scenario to see really kind of how it plays out. Eliana, did I lose you?
Oh gosh, I was talking this whole time. I'm so sorry. Jennifer, great question. If you have another follow-up question, write on in and let me know, because I know you're still on the show. Oh, Jennifer wrote in, interesting indeed. Thanks. All right, your next question, Shaun, comes to you from Bruce. And he says, what is a good impression frequency to serve regarding ads? To serve retargeting ads. Our PPC partner has retargeted me so many times in a day that they're actually annoying to me.
A good frequency, all the way up to the point of pissing you off and then back off a couple clicks. Bruce, it's really, 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 I think that you fall into the majority of us, that when we get retargeted or remarketed too much, it's like you're killing me, Smalls. I'm not going to name names, but it happens to me as well. The whole retargeting piece can just be a bit overwhelming. My personal approach, if it's me in the dealership, I'm probably going to have a frequency of, like, I would potentially hit somebody a few times, potentially within a 24-hour period. But I'm not a fan of the oversaturation, where it's every session almost they're showing up. The idea behind that, right, is omnipresence, marketing 101. You're everywhere all the time. But digitally now, your point is well taken. It becomes an annoyance very, very quickly as soon as you realize that as soon as you look over your shoulder, this person is literally following you like a shadow. So I think you have to be strategic, and then I think ultimately the answer to that question is, well, how effective is the setup? So if you are setting it up that you're going to actually retarget somebody, or they could be served 5 messages or 10 messages, and it's a certain amount, a small amount in the can every 24 hours or every 30 days, let's say, measure the effectiveness of the campaign. Because ultimately, as the advertiser, if you're the dealer or whatever, any kind of business, your decision making shouldn't be whether or not you're actually annoying people. It should be whether or not it's actually helping your business sell more. And I know that sounds a little harsh, but that's kind of the marketing part of me and the kind of business part of me. All dealers are in business to make money. They're not in business for any other reason. And some of them do it like really well, and they're charitable and all those kind of things. But that's the one thing that they're probably always going to look at is, the frequency may not matter as long as it's actually driving a better result. It may irritate people, but that's probably what I would say. And I think for us, it's been a while since I talked to my team about that on any of the display or retargeting or remarketing stuff that we've been running. But it actually probably is something that I'm going to ask them, like if they can share with me some results on things that have different frequencies, because it's a great question.
And interesting. Bruce, thank you for so such a cool question. All right, next question comes to you from today's winner, Tim. He says, you recommend call-only ads in lieu of directing people to our website?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, here's the thing. If you don't have, and I run into this all the time, so, there are dealerships that are so terrible on the phone that maybe a call-only ad is a terrible idea for you. But so there are some assumptions there. But my preference is I want somebody on the phone. If I can get somebody on the phone in lieu of somebody going to my website, and I build websites. We build the highest conversion ones that we actually stand behind it with a money-back guarantee, right? I get it. I love that part. But if I can get them on the phone, especially if I direct them on the phone to the right people, and I've got my rock stars ready to take care of that person, oh, I want that all day long because I want the one-to-one connection. And here's a little bit of, again, and a lot of when you guys are asking these questions, I'm giving you my thoughts, my opinions, the things that I base how we work with our clients on these things. And here's one of the things that I always tell people about if I want to drive and I can get somebody on the phone over going to my website. I love to be able to take the variation and the frequency of communication and get it as one-to-one and controllable as possible. If I get you on the phone, right, I can talk to you. Hey, what questions can I answer? This is one-to-one. You cannot, if you get somebody on the phone, you don't have the time to edit what you're going to say through a text message or through an email template or whatever else, right? So if I can get people into that one-to-one communication, I'm going to bet on my communication skills, including my communication skills on a telephone, to be able to engage you and interest you and qualify you and try to get that next stage. So that's why I'm a really big fan of it. I know for some dealerships that I know that's a bit of a challenge, but that's why I think that way. Hopefully that's helpful, Tim.
Yeah, Suzanne also wrote in about the call ads, and yes, he does recommend call ads in lieu of directing people to the website. Tim says, very interesting, and I mean, your website is your number one marketing tool online, and really the website's there so that they will pick up the phone and call you. So, Shaun, I absolutely agree with you. All right, next question. Next question comes to you from Suzanne. She says, ooh, this is a good one. Do you have a general rule of thumb as far as the number of call-only ads versus regular mobile targeted? Should it be the same number? Should it be a percentage? Or is there no rule of thumb? What's the deal, Shaun?
I guess my rule of thumb on our campaigns when we set them up is that we at least set up one of the mobile ads as a call-only ad, and sometimes it can be a bit more general than something specific. We run them specifically when somebody's looking for a specific type of vehicle as well. So the only general rule of thumb that I have is that you're at least running at least one call-only mobile ad, and the reason for that is because of how well they perform. It's extremely important. Now, it's not to say that your entire. Remember that I also recommended in your structure, your campaign structure, that you have at least 3 that are your typical standard desktop ads, and that 2 of them are mobile preferred, are mobile in nature. 1 of those can be call only, and then in a split rotation fashion, you're always constantly monitoring what the performance is of each of those campaigns or each of those ad types to find out, well, which ones are really performing better. And then your decisions then become made based off of performance. So general rule of thumb is that you're at least running one call-only campaign through mobile, and that you're testing it. Like probably every 30 days, what did we get? What was our expected result in terms of phone calls? And now let's try a different ad copy on a mobile or a call-only campaign and track it, right? And then after a while, what will end up happening is you'll have this little recipe of the types of things that are working for you. Maybe something that's more general and it's just new car in focus or connect with the dealership in some nature. Or in some cases, we've seen dealers that have niche, fan-based audiences around Mustang or Jeep Wrangler, and you get somebody connected that way. So I would say over time, the more you test, you'll find out which ones really, really hit the mark for you. But I would say that my rule of thumb is that I'm always running at least one.
At least one. All right, Suzanne, we hope that helps you out. All right, Suzanne says, so there's a separate campaign for call only.
It's in your mobile ad settings in Adwords. So that's where you'll set up a call-only ad, is under mobile settings in AdWords.
Oh,
so your mobile preferred ad is going to be, maybe she already knows that.
Yeah, she said thanks. Okay,
cool.
Last few questions, and then we'll close out the show. If you haven't heard your question get asked yet, stay tuned. It's getting asked right now. Okay, your next question comes to you from David. He says, well, it's a two-parter. What is the best way to find out if my SEM is landing on the right pages without clicking on every link and costing me a ton of money? And his second part is, does my SEM company upload the emails to Google, or do I do it?
So what was the second part of the question? Does my SEM
company upload the emails to Google, or do I do it?
Okay. So yeah, so if you're using something for SEM, you would, I'm guessing that's the way they're set up, is you'd have to supply them with those email addresses and they would do it on your behalf. We have had dealers that have sent us lists. Hey, here's a giant email list, and that we have done it for them. If you're managing your own campaigns, then you don't need anybody to assist you with that, and you would do it on your own. But if you're using somebody, they will probably help facilitate that process. And then in the first part of your question, so there are some tools that you can use for visibility on that, David, and this is something that probably, even offline, if you want to reach out to me, I can give you some pointers on that, where you can go and look at a couple things. And then there's also the ability to, and this is probably even my bigger recommendation, is I would call my account manager who's running those ads, and when you go through, even if it's just your monthly review, I would have them walk me through how each of them are set up, like where they're going. Especially as it relates to maybe their matching philosophies, because you'll find yourself in these situations where, oh, you landed people there in new inventory, and that's I wasn't looking for new inventory, like the examples that I showed, where you can find some of that yourself. So I would definitely talk to the people that are managing it for you and have them make that part of their review. But I'm happy to give you some ideas. If you reach out to me, I'll send you a couple links and some things that you may want to look at on your own.
Oh, that's really cool. David said thanks. I'll do that. All right, David. All right, last couple. Heather. Heather wrote in, when using zip code targeting, what do you recommend for more rural areas as opposed to highly populated areas?
It's challenging, to say the least, and it's really, really dependent on working with the advertiser or the dealership of them helping us understand. When it's us, when it's DealerOn running those campaigns, we really need to talk to them to find out like what really exists in there and what kind of breakdown. So we can go and pull, data about what's going on in a particular DMA or PMA, however you refer to it, and look at some of those things. But typically the dealers that have been in those areas for a long time, they already know a lot about their zip code differentiation and breakdown. So we'll kind of look at that, and then what we'll do is we will, when we start the campaigns, we'll allow the campaign to reach into some of those zip codes where we're not sure, right? You can't, anybody that says, like, with certainty we're going to start out and we're going to hit home runs every single time we get up to the plate, they're lying. So we'll take some of those zip codes that we don't have as much certainty of, and they're much less populated, they're much more rural, as you say. We'll take those and we will modify what we're going to do in terms of bids, and we'll be careful so that we don't waste money in those areas, so that we can kind of test and find out if we get any type of action that we would really want. And then if it ends up proving to be a worthwhile zip code to be part of your whole strategy of this multiple zip code strategy, then they can stay in. But zip code targeting is similar to a lot of other components, whereas you want to test against it to find out which ones should stay and which ones shouldn't be there. And there's also, sometimes there's an argument to be made for actually using a single radius that is picking up a bunch of, maybe you have 2 or 3 zip codes in a rural radius that you're going to get only a handful of clicks from, and you test there to find out if any of those zip codes should be actually pulled out and then put into a different zip code only strategy. So there's a few different things that we look at, but one thing that's always really helpful is the dealers know quite a bit about those markets, and then it's just being really careful not to waste money in those zip codes.
I agree. Agreed. Okay, Heather, I hope that helped you out, but certainly get in touch with Shaun directly if, Here she goes. She says, makes sense. Thank you. All right. All right. Last comment came in from Tim. He says, I recommend that dealers pay their SEM provider a flat fee for their services and then pay Google separately so you know exactly how much is actually being spent on your campaigns. Does this sound reasonable, Shaun?
It does sound reasonable. It's just not easy for companies to set up billing structure to accommodate that way. So we have a few different varieties of how our clients can pay us, whether it's your typical credit card or ACH, where that you can do your bank account type of thing. Even a few clients are like, no, I just want to write you guys a check. So we try to be very, very accommodating with it. But yeah, I mean, in a perfect world, that would be really, really good. It's challenging to implement that across most of the business types just because of how their billing departments work, right?
Right.
So,
right.
But yeah, no, I don't. If we could do that with everybody, I think that'd be great. That speaks to transparency, and I don't know that there's a bigger fan of it than I am. So, if it were easy to do, I would say everybody should be doing it. But knowing the challenges, especially at scale when you're working with a lot of customers, it can be really difficult. But
Gotcha.
I love the transparency part of it, Tim. Love it. Love it.
I think everyone's a fan of that. Shaun, you laid out another rockin' webinar for me, and I could not be happier. Thank you so much, sir, for being here today.
Oh yeah, my pleasure. I always enjoy doing it, and then for all of you that weren't expecting for it to go a little bit over time, I appreciate you guys hanging in there. And the reason why all the contact information and stuff is always on these is we really, the whole DealerOn crew, it's like a family, right? And Eliana knows this because she's part of it, but we really want you guys to know that we're as accessible as possible. If I'm not on an airplane and I'm not talking to somebody else and I can help a dealer anywhere, that's kind of that's our method to our madness. So please feel free to reach out after the show if there are things that you think that I might be able to help you out with. I'm always happy to try and do so.
I agree, and he's a super nice guy, too, if you haven't already been able to tell. All right, so Shaun, thank you so much for your presentation. It was amazing. I want to remind the audience, of course, that a link to download a copy of this webinar recording is going to be emailed to you later today for your reference. Feel free to share it with your friends and colleagues, and this webinar recording is also going to be posted online within 24 hours. All you have to do is go to dealeron.com/webinars, and from there, you can view our upcoming webinar schedule or access any of our past webinars, too. And yes, I'm going to close out this webinar in just a moment. When I do, you're going to receive a short survey. We want to know what you thought of Shaun's presentation, so please fill out the survey. It's a short survey. It's only 6 questions. We're always looking for your feedback. Today, we're going to randomly select a couple of people from all those completed surveys to also win some Google prizes. And hey, DealerOn's going to be exhibiting and presenting at the upcoming NADA convention in Vegas, baby. It's going to be the end of March, beginning of April. So if you're going to be there, I'm going to be there. Stop by, say hi. And Shaun's going to be there too. So we're going to be at booth 6626N. Oh gosh, write that down. That's not an easy one. 6626N. We have an awesome booth. Always, always awesome. So you're not going to want to miss that. And while you're getting your NADA on, please check out the speaking sessions from these awesome DealerOn executives. And invitations will be going out tomorrow for our next DealerOn webinar. I'm really excited about this one. It's how to crush mediocrity. You heard me. Mediocrity, attention, your days are numbered. Lisa Copeland, award-winning automotive industry leader, has made it her personal mission to crush mediocrity in all aspects of our lives. Her experience and advice in hard work and achievement and will have your organization reaching new heights and never settling for less than amazing. In this remarkable 1-hour webinar, attendees are going to learn how to identify the signs of mediocrity creeping into their organization, receive the tools you'll need to crush mediocrity in its tracks, discover how to motivate your associates to crush mediocrity in their daily lives, and how to gain the skills to turn mediocre employees into high-level achievers, and so much more. It is time to rein in the attitude of entitlement, ineffectiveness, and laziness that has infiltrated our professional spaces, team expectations, and even our home life, and achieve your full potential. If you're ready to learn how to crush mediocrity both at work and at life, and realize your own personal excellence, then don't you dare miss this presentation. Register now. And don't forget, DealerOn's weekly webinars are held Thursdays at 12 noon Eastern, 11 a.m. Central, 10 a.m. Mountain, and 9 a.m. Pacific. We have some amazing webinar subjects planned for 2016, but if you have questions, comments, or suggestions, please reach out to me directly. I love hearing from you. Again, my name is Eliana Raggio, and I'm everywhere. Facebook, Twitter, Google+, you name it. I'm on all the automotive social networks, so you can track me down online, or you can just email me directly at eliana@dealeron.com. Thank you all so very much for spending this time with us today, and I hope to see you all on another webinar in our continuing education series. Take care.